I'm Frederick Ros. I'm working for the last 20 something at Amadeus. I had different jobs and background. I have a very technical background. I'm a developer since I'm 8, and I still want to be developer. So more on the technical side. And today I'm leading a team which is called Digital Workplace Services, which is basically the foundation of work at Amadeus. So it's giving everything that the employees need to ensure that they can work. So it's everything, network, devices, collaboration solution, and all this stuff, and support for sure.
Excellent. We worked together in the past
Yes.
in nowadays. Today we're talking about communication, Fred, and honing in a bit on one of the most difficult parts of communication, which is feedback.
The most difficult.
Everybody says, yes, we need it. We need to talk more. We learn so much. But on the other hand, we also know it can bring up a lot of defensiveness, emotions, status, a whole mixed bag of things which can make feedback quite volatile. What does feedback mean to you in your daily life, with your teams, with your organization? What role does it play?
I think it's probably the most important stuff that you need. I mean, giving feedback on things, if things are going well or needs to be improved from your point of view. And it also depends on the culture. It depends on the individual. So it's overall extremely complex, and it's an art. To me, it's really an art.
Yes. Now you have a big organization. You have lots of different nationalities. Then you have functional cultures you have to cross. We're more and more talking about different generations and how they deal with communication and feedback. Fred, have you found some things you could share on how to bridge that, on how to install a culture, at least within your own organization, of feedback?
I would say that the first thing is trying to level these differences by having a common environment where we can show that we can have fun, that we accept mistakes and errors, and actually that we are doing a lot of mistakes and errors. I'm a big fan of showing actually where you are not good. Personally, I have a lot of flaws. There are stuff I'm good at, stuff I'm totally crap at it, but sharing these kind of things where you show what you didn't do well, actually, instead of showing what you did well, is also creating this trust. And I think that when you have this trust, it's easier and it's simpler to communicate. And also, there is also this. I think it's important. Is also restating that we have these differences. I'm a passionate debater, so I'm very like that. And I'm explaining to people that I'm French, so I need to complain, and that's not about them or whatever. But you know that there are these kind of things where you need also to explain where you are. And to me, that's important.
Now you're bringing up something very interesting, which is this being able to talk about mistakes, being able to talk about things you didn't do so well, not knowing everything. So that's something we would call vulnerability, right? How did you get your leaders in your organization to feel more comfortable with it? Or was it something that they saw you do it and naturally everybody started to copy you?
And in fact, I realized that years ago. I was a manager or senior manager. I don't remember. It was actually in a training.
Yes.
And in this training, the trainer asked us to share something that has been difficult in our life. It was the first one. And I shared something very impactful at this time with my son that was a kid. It was a little bit emotional and so on. And in fact, I realized that as I did that, the other person did the same. Yes. Like if it's okay to talk about this kind of stuff, or even, this idea of, okay, if somebody is able to tell me this kind of stuff, it's almost a gift. I need to reciprocate the gift. I think that the moment you start showing that, people are starting being more open about the fact that they can make mistakes, and that it's not about whether they are making a mistake, because the only people that are not making mistakes are people that are doing nothing.
And it's super interesting. Now, something you mentioned was, for example, the fact that Amadeus is in many countries. Bangalore, India is a very important site. What I found working with teams also in Amadeus is that there is a perception that not all cultures immediately stimulate opening up. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you have cultures where we need a bit more of time, or it's not appropriate to talk about personal things or mistakes, at least not the first time. And then, Fred, I've always been amazed that when you organize work sessions, everybody opens up very, very quickly, much faster than you actually would expect.
And to me, that's the power of being all together and doing it all together. If you're asking the same stuff to people to do it in writing, in a mail or whatever, you won't have exactly the same results.
It's interesting because, as you said, it opens up a bit of our common humanity. It drops the mask we have on every day, where everybody has a role.
No, I fully align with you on that one. And actually thinking back about this difference of culture, when you look at really what's happening in a team, when you're all together doing this stuff, these differences are more or less not there anymore.
Yes.
And that's, I mean, I know that, but one way to have also to create this kind of environments, and we realized that during the COVID actually, is that almost everybody in my organization is in the same one Teams chat, which is the fun chat. Yeah. So this is the place where people are sending wishes or telling you happy birthday or posting some funny stuff. And as they're seeing that everybody in the organization, whatever the level, is doing it and is participating and is making fun of himself or herself from time to time, this is creating this kind of environment where you know that it's okay to joke, it's okay to open and to say something. And then when you meet people in real life or when you're traveling to the site and so on, there is almost this stuff that we know each other. And I think that this is important because in the end, we are working a lot.
Yeah. Where we now see more and more problems is cross-team collaboration. They don't have the time to actually build some trust, but you have to produce immediately.
It's a little bit both of them. Plus probably a little bit of this tribe mindset or competitive mindset where it's about your team. When you start having some kind of this big gathering and so on, this is where you start breaking these silos.
Yes.
And where you create a different discussion between the teams. There are also some in the work, in the day-to-day work, there are also some practices. Few days ago, I was in a kind of PI event, where it was about one team, but they invited every other team. So most of the team had the thing, which created a lot of interesting discussion as well. People were not afraid of speaking up, and it starts creating some understanding and clarifying misunderstanding and creating some bondings as well.
Are there any other things, Fred, which you do within your teams to promote feedback?
So to promote feedback, actually, again, to me, it's again about openness. So it's more, I would say, it's more about the feedback we can have on how we are delivering instead of how each individual is doing. Where we need to improve, and I personally need to improve a lot, is being more structured in the way I'm delivering the feedback and being able to really contextualize it and giving really concrete examples about practices and stuff like that. And this one is complex because it means that you need to, first when you see something that needs to be improved or that is good, you need to take a note of it. And then there is also the finding the right moment and so on. But that's something typically that very often we forget. We are giving feedback just about, no, you are not, this stuff is not working, blah, 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 blah. It's not really this contextualized and rich feedback that we should or that we owe to people.
Yeah. No, and I think that's very interesting. A couple of years ago, we worked on crew game and clear and calm. And clear was how do you give, and calm was how do you receive. Yes. What we've seen is that you could be an incredible feedback giver.
Yes.
But if the person is sensitive, it's almost impossible to give perfect feedback, right? If you look at, you have different cultures, you have different languages, you have different ages.
It's communication in the end. So you have somebody that is emitting something and you have somebody that is receiving something, and you have filters in between. And you can be the best at sending information and removing all your filters or setting the right filters, whatever. If the other one is not at the same level or the same, the communication won't go through, and that's difficult.
So being able to take in the message, even if it's messy or it's not as clear or there are words in there which you don't like, still being able to listen and say, hey, I need to unpack this.
Complex. And I can tell you, I mean, it's basically the difference between really getting it or hearing something you want to hear or you don't want to hear. I mean, and I had this challenge a lot, not specifically on feedback directly, but on something similar on the when somebody was asking me for something or was coming with a problem. I realized, working with a coach actually, I realized that my engineer brain was kicking in. So the first stuff when people were talking, I was looking for solution. Or I was looking for proof that the solution I was having in mind was okay for him or her and will fix his or her problem. Instead of just listening and just trying to understand the position of the other. And that's the same for the feedback. Very often the may come in a form that is not the best one. How can you just take, a step back and looking at that as somebody was putting it on the table and you are looking at that and saying, oh, this is this piece. I'm going to take this one because this one I understand. This one, okay, I understand its frustration or whatever. And that's difficult.
It is very difficult.
Some culture are better.
Something, Fred, we found to be very helpful in getting a bit of that resilience. It's exposing yourself to more feedback. And the best way to expose your feedback is just asking it more. Ask for feedback, listen to it, and it becomes less, you desensitize a bit to it, which gives you more time to then listen, ask what's really behind this, what's really going on with this, empathize with the message that is coming over.
No, it's really key. And actually, it reminds me, it happens to me. I had a difficult period, actually, due to different projects, program, whatever, where I was somehow blocked in my progression on the leadership path.
Sure.
And it was difficult to have a real feedback, actually, because the people I was talking to were mainly people that heard about the feedback. And I said, okay, I understand that you have some issue with me and you think that I need to progress on some stuff. Please tell me. And I did that with two of the two leaders, actually. And it was funny. One told me, oh, no, I don't know what you mean. And the other one told me, okay, I will tell you. And he told me, A, B, C, D, you need to do this cannot work. And I was like, whoa. So I was lucky that I took notes at this time, as he was talking, actually, because then I had some time to start digesting. And I was also lucky enough to have a coach at this time that helped me. And looking at the stuff and telling me, perhaps you can read it a different way. Perhaps you can think that. Perhaps, and it's true that actually this feedback helped me to move to the next position because I understood the stuff. I did my homework. I started changing a little bit, and then it went without any problem. And the funny part is that for my director position, one of the final interviewer was the guy that gave me the feedback. So it was super well done because actually he was able to tell me, I see that you have progressed on that, and that. So well done, and everything is okay. To me, that it also helped me to really live the feedback experience or the power of the feedback. If you try to remove all the emotional angerness or whatever stuff and trying to be a little bit honest with you, with some help very often, but at least a little bit honest with you, to really take into account and try to change.
Yeah, no, that's a very very good story. It shows a lot of courage as well, right? I think I can imagine when you saw that person again, and the fact that you had actually taken it and started to action it. It's put you in a very good position. Have to give feedback in the way that you've just told us. I sometimes think that leaders are a bit afraid of opening that door because then they think this will take away my power or it will become complete chaos. And I've never seen it get out of hand. I've never seen people storming into your office on a daily basis.
Because people are respecting anyway people, whatever their position in the organization and so on. So naturally, they are not going to trash you or to just enter the office and so on. I mean, it happened to me with some of my managers actually in the past where we had really very hot and hard arguments, and the minute after we were having a beer together because he was this kind of guy that was kind of exploding, but at the same time he was able to switch back and to explain actually why he was doing that and so on. And in some way, I prefer that because it's clear that he's exploding and he's saying, and then you are moving to something else. But it's difficult to do as well.
I think it's also a bit in the French culture, as you say. I remember being in France and looking at your TV shows, and it's like, my goodness, these people are taking each other apart. And then later, okay, thank you very much.
It's a little bit, yeah.
Okay. I want to move a bit in the context of feedback to an article you wrote in Medium last year about personal user manuals. Yeah. Could you tell us a bit more what a personal user manual?
Let's call it a protocol to explain to others who you are, what you like, what you don't like, how you prefer to communicate. And basically the goal is really to ensure that you are improving the communication between individuals. It's super interesting to write first because you have to ask you the right questions.
Yes.
I remember having to meet with a new exec, and we knew that we were going to exchange a lot together. And when she arrived, I told her, "Oh, actually, I have a personal user manual," and she told me I have one as well.
Oh wow!
And so we exchanged. And that moment, I knew better how to talk to her. It was like if I was knowing her already. But I knew how she was preferred to be present in stuff. She prefers to have a meeting or a discussion or a mail or whatever. And it's very useful as well in a team because you also start discussing a little bit differently. In a team, very often it's about work, it's about what you can do, what you cannot do. And there it's more about how I'm able to understand things, what I need to be able to work. And so you are a little bit more on the personal. I had interesting discussion with some of my team where people were telling me, I don't know, there are stuff I don't want to share. I said, normal, that's okay. We are just talking about how you prefer to be addressed or to be talked to and so on. So just choose yourself the level of openness you want to give on that one. But to me, that's really something that we should all do. I'm always wondering why we don't have more of this, including more integration of tools with this kind of stuff. I would love to have that perhaps in LinkedIn, to have my personal user manual or a link to a repository where we have all these personal user manual, and then you can start interacting with people. That's it. But there is something to be done there.
Things we had before, and we still have, are the MBTIs, right? So these personalities that has a bit of the same dynamics, because at that point you need to share your color or your different letter types. I've probably done most of them. And I have to say that it's always a very good exercise because you discover yourself, you discover other people, but then it kind of disappears, right? Then the event is over. And I haven't seen many companies or teams which then say, look, it becomes a working tool.
To me, the main difference also is that this framework is what somebody has to do about you. The personal user manual is you about you. So it could be flawed, it could be wrong, but that's the perspective that you want to give and how you prefer things to happen. So it's biased by definition. But again, it's coming from you. So most of the time it's more related to how you accept to engage with others and stuff like that. But you may go to other direction. On mine, I was sharing that I'm a passionate debater, so people knows that if they are seeing me becoming a little bit more, emotional in the discussion, they know that it's part of my
it's okay.
Of the way I'm. Yeah, it's me.
So, Fred, is this a practice that you have implemented in your organization or with your team, or?
Yeah, so I implemented that with my direct reports, but we did it also with my former boss asked us to do it as well, because he have seen what we have done. I proposed and we did it, and it helped understanding how my peers were working. It's not a widely adopted practice in Amadeus, but probably because we are not talking about it. But I would love to see that, and we already discussed about that, especially now that you have all this stuff linked to AI and so on. Yeah. That could be a huge help with some of the use cases there.
Now, before we jump into AI, I remember Fred talked a lot about team level agreements. And I'm just very interested to see, because, both they started to become popular after COVID, hybrid working. Suddenly we had to be far more deliberate on agreeing on when we're in the office, when we meet, all these kind of things. How do you see those two things working together, or maybe clashing, or?
No, I think it's if you take the perspective that the personal user manual is you about you, the team level agreement is okay with all these individuals and preferences, or are we going to work together? And which agreement or which contract are we signing as a team together to ensure that we are able to do whatever we have to do? And I think it's important in the sense that it's formalizing a little bit how the team accept to work together, which is not something we used to have.
No, I agree. Yeah, we see teams actually sitting down and doing plays or exercises, or explicitly agreeing on times to be in the office, or communication styles, or decision-making styles, all of it. But it's interesting because you could see situations where in my PUM, I would say, look, I'm not very good in the morning. But in the team agreement, we all agree we have to meet in the morning because that's the only way we can meet together. So it's interesting that you will still have to make compromises for the team, right? Just because you have a PUM doesn't mean then suddenly everybody the whole day needs to tailor everything to each other.
No. That's really the point where perhaps you are not a morning guy, but you will have to compromise that. But at the same time, perhaps you prefer to have only meetings and people prefer to work at sync, and we will compromise on that for you. So that's part of building the team, but that's also a living document or a living contract. If it's not working or if it needs to be improved, then we will improve it. And I think that the personal user manual, you need to have a version with it because you are evolving and your preferences are evolving, and it needs to be reflected somehow as well. That's the same for the team.
Now, the last question. What is very interesting is that the PUM and the team level agreements came out around 22 pre-AI. Well, that's not completely true. We've always had AI, but generative AI for the larger PUM. That could be a huge help and actually make it more workable. Could you say a bit more about how you see AI playing a role?
I'm seeing it playing a role. The personal user manual and or the team level agreement as well, playing a big role on that one, mainly because you want stuff that are contextualized. You know that the more context you give to an LLM, the better the results.
Yes.
If I'm giving myself this kind of very structured context about who I am, what I like, what I don't like, or I prefer to be presented stuff, then the LLM could tweak the way it's going to give you an answer based on your preferences. You can contextualize the communication or personalize the communication. You can ensure you can get the help of an AI model to help you find the best compromise in terms of how you are going to implement something or a decision or something like that, because you know what all these people prefer.
Yeah. So let's take an example. I'm part of your leadership team. Everybody has a PUM. You have 12 people. It's a big team. All those PUMs could be loaded into a GPT. And the next time you need to talk to me about something difficult, you just do a quick check with the message you have to see if it actually will resonate with me, when to give it to me.
It could be exactly this one. I need to talk to Hubert about that. This is the details and so on. What would be the best way to ensure that my message is going through, that it's accepted, both in terms of the modality of the communication, but also the framing of how you can say stuff and so on. So it could be really an help with that. And the same when you are going to back to a team of several people and you have something to be said, a decision that you need to go through, whatever, you can choose the best way to present it to the full team and potentially to manage some of the challenges of communication between people. Or you can say, okay, I will have a dedicated communication for each of them. What will be the best modality for each of them? And then you are coming to that. But to me, it's really this one. It's adding context, helping the LLM to get to the best proposal in this specific context that I need to give you this feedback.
It's very interesting because we just released the Clear and Calm GPT, and you can use it to prepare feedback, to practice feedback with somebody in role play, and even review feedback, because you later take the transcript and you put it back into the same conversation and you say, how did I do? It will give you some pretty good feedback on your feedback, no?
To me, that this use case where you have an AI that is helping you to prepare is super good. And because look, today the challenge you have most of the time when you want to be trained on this kind of soft skill is the practice.
Yes.
But there you can have some role playing. You can have a model that is playing the role of this guy that don't want to do anything, whatever, and you need to give some feedback. And then you can have a second model that is looking at it and that is giving you feedback. Or you can have a live, a physical trainer that is next to you and telling you, hold on, you see, you answered this part.
Yeah.
Then he did that. No, let's rewind and let's change the way you are sending the information or feedback, and let's see what's happening. So to me, that's super interesting on that. And it's helping also lots of people are shy or they don't want to show that they don't know, or that's
Or be
a super good
judged.
example.
Yeah.
Exactly. You are doing it. You have somebody that is very silent. This AI won't say it to anybody. Won't say that you were probably not good with the first time you tried to give the feedback, but now you will be better. That's also helping the people to learn or to rehearse or to be prepared.
Lots of times we hear AI mentioned when it comes to becoming more efficient, taking out friction from the process, very rational ways of looking at it. But what we're actually here talking about is kind of a co-emotional intelligence, right? Which actually improves relationships versus this story of AI taking away our humanity and machine versus human.
I'm really seeing generative AI. Microsoft, for example, is calling it Copilot. I think that the term is a super good one. If you are the driver, it's the Copilot. We can see that for very standard stuff, but when you are coming to emotional or emotions or whatever, why can't it work? It has been trained on the huge corpus of documents that are including literature, that are incorporating writing about psychology. Actually, it's even better than when you are talking about math. If you ask math to ChatGPT, it's shit. Actually, the stuff is not super
Still,
good. It needs to rely on some code behind that is going to rewrite, blah, blah. If you are talking about psychology and so on, it's probably much better there. We can harness this kind of stuff for a lot of the things we want to do. And on top, as engineer, we are usually not the best one at the emotional management or the EQ stuff. That can be a good help, asking for feedback or for help when you don't know how to convey or how to say something to somebody. Yes. No, to me, and this is where we like this kind of stuff used more and more, because as you were mentioning, we are talking a lot about AI to help you searching faster or having better results or helping you to write a mail or automating the writing of a mail totally. Exactly. And if you look, a lot of the product on the market are really targeting that and only that.
Good. Fred, last question, very short. We end with AI, but we can see it went much faster than I think you and I expected. We always say, look, get into this stuff because, it's not that AI will take your job, but somebody who knows to use it will, or potentially could take your job. But you must also see around you that some people by curiosity or by interest latch onto it, and some other people take a bit more time. Any advice just how to get into this and start becoming more confident with these type of systems?
So to me, it's practice. It's just take the jump. Like every other stuff, it's about changing your habits.
Yes,
I have AI tools at work that help me to search faster in my mails, or actually in my mails, meetings, documents. And still, from time to time, I'm just realizing that in my Outlook and looking for mails, and I'm saying, bummer. Then I'm going to the other one saying, please look at it. So this is the kind of
you are reprogramming the brain. Yeah,
exactly. You need to reprogram, and I think that everybody should try to use it to ask questions, or even if you are doing a manual work where you don't have this knowledge work, I think it could be beneficial. It also gives you a different perspective. It could be beneficial to help you by making decisions. And the moment you start really using it a little bit, you are using it more and more. I'm seeing it with my kids, the way they are using it to in their studies and stuff like that. it's super interesting because they are using it in ways where I was saying, okay, I didn't think about that. Instead of asking questions, they are saying, okay, I need to prepare to this exam, and please ask me question, and then I will answer, and you will rate my answer. Blah blah blah. It's just because they started to play with it.
Yeah. No, and what you said as well, I think once you are a bit more familiar, also dive into more of the social skills and the emotional skills on how to deal with people. And
I mean, we have the luxury that this stuff is really not expensive, free, in a lot of
available.
Time. That's exactly available. That you have a lot of documentation, books, whatever on it. So the knowledge is there, in fact, and it's very easy to access it. So you have to jump on it.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Fred.
You're welcome.
This has been really, really good. Like I knew it would, right?